Hi, I'm Emily Zimmer from Lessonface, and I'm going to show you two scales that'll get you everywhere on bass guitar. Let's go. The two scales I find most useful are the major and natural minor scales. Maybe you recognize that. It kind of has a happy, cheery, uplifting quality to it. Now, the natural minor scale has a little bit different mood. So a little bit more somber, maybe a little bit more serious, and those two moods really matter. We can be really expressive with those. Just about everything that you do in music is going to fit into a generally major or generally minor category, like playing over major or minor chords, or in major or minor keys. So let's talk about what scales are. Scales are musical sounding patterns of notes that are going to fit those major or minor contexts. So when you're playing a bass line, you want to hit the correct notes, right? You can have random patterns of notes that may or may not sound musical and may or may not kind of fit the context. Or you can have patterns of notes that actually sound like music. Our first mission is to memorize the physical patterns we can use to make these scales. Now these are what I call movable patterns because you can start them at any starting fret and use the same physical pattern, and the major one will always give you a major scale. The minor one will always give you a natural minor scale. So in theory, you can use these in any key or over any major or minor chord. Let's just start these in 4th and 5th position. The 5th fret will be our starting note for this first one, the major scale. Now notice I'm starting this pattern with my 2nd finger, and it's because we're actually going to be in 4th position on the fretboard the whole time. A position is just a set of 4 frets because we have 4 fingers. Now if we use the correct fingers, we can stay in exactly the same fretboard position the entire time and go up and down the whole scale. I want to start it at the note A, which is our 5th fret 4th string. So it's going to sound like this. Now you can also start this pattern, since it only uses 3 strings, at the 3rd string. So not only can you move this pattern to any fretboard position, but you can do it at 2 different starting strings. Let's start it at the 3rd string. And you can hear that in both of those spots, it's still a major scale. Let's talk about the natural minor. For this one, we're going to start it with our 1st finger at the 5th fret 4th string. That's going to keep us in 5th position for the entire scale. Here goes. Note that I'm practicing the ascending scale. That means going up in pitch. And I'm also practicing it descending, coming down in pitch. It's important to go both ways every time you practice because you're going to use it both ways. Now let's start that at our 3rd string, same fret. Ready, and... Now once you're feeling good about those in one position, once you've built that muscle memory a little bit, it's important to do it all the way up the fretboard. So I'm only going to do 1 string at a time and just a handful of fretboard positions at a time. But when you do this on your own, I want you to do it at every fretboard position, starting from both starting strings. Let's start over here with the major in starting at the 2nd fret, which is actually 1st position. This 2nd fret here is F sharp. Now, if you don't know your notes on the 4th and 3rd string all the way up the fretboard, then I suggest you get a fretboard chart that shows you the names of those notes, because you want to start to memorize that as well. And a great way to do this is every time you start a new position for your scale, say the name of it out loud, the full name. So before I start this one, I would say F sharp major, and then I would go into it. And then I'd move it up only 1 fret at a time, G major. G sharp major. A major. And so on and so forth all the way up the fretboard. Now, I'll show you the natural minor scale just to change things up a little bit. Why don't we do it starting at the 3rd string? And I'll go up a few frets from 1st position. This note right here, that's B flat. So we're going to start there and keep going. B flat natural minor. B natural minor. C natural minor. D flat natural minor. And so on and so forth. You're going to be an expert at these. You won't even have to think about them. They're going to be muscle memory. Now, let's try this over an actual chord progression. So let's say that the chords in the song that we're learning are A, B minor, C sharp minor, and D. First, we want to find convenient places for our starting notes, which are going to be the root notes of those chords. Now, the word root note means the note that gives the chord its name. So the root note of an A chord is A. The root note of a B minor chord is B. So right here we can play A, and then we just have to go 2 frets up to B, and then I think I'll play the C sharp note right here, and then right next door is the D. See why you need to memorize your fretboard notes on at least these 2 strings, so you can find your starting points right away. Now you've memorized your patterns already, right? So we're just going to play those patterns over each of those chords. A. B minor. C sharp minor. And D. Now let's take the next step. When you're writing bass lines, or when you're learning a song that has an already written bass line, it's not just going to be the notes of the scale going straight up and down, most likely. It's probably going to be something else, something melodic, creative that uses those notes, but maybe not directly in order. So let's just do a really simple quarter note bass line. Check this one out. So the main points that you want to take from this lesson are, number 1, memorize both physical patterns. Just those 2 patterns will get you everywhere. Number 2, memorize the names of the notes on your 4th and 3rd string. Number 3, experiment. Make up your own stuff from these patterns. And number 4, because you're practicing and memorizing these scales, you're going to understand what they sound like, and you're going to recognize them in songs that maybe you've already heard. So maybe the next time you're trying to learn a famous bass line that you love, you'll recognize that it comes from a pattern of notes like the major or natural minor scale, and you won't even need a note-for-note tab or any kind of sheet music to figure that out. So this is empowering you to do a lot of different things in music. Have fun with it. Thank you so much once again for joining me, and I'll see you around.